Welcome everyone to our BNI Talks webinar. My name is Steve Tenuza, your host, and today I've got Bond, Aster, and team, and we are going to talk a little bit about maximizing profits and accelerating sales for growth. That sounds great for any business, and Bond is got a really great presentation to show today. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Bond and his team.
Hello, everyone. I'm Bond Aster, President of Value Logic Solutions. I hold the business coaching position in Seattle Professionals, obviously in Seattle. So there are three things for growth. You want to have a solid foundation. If you're growing anything, they did an experiment a number of years ago in Arizona. They grew a bunch of trees in a biodome. And they thought if they controlled the atmosphere and everything, they grew really fast, and the trees were like, wow, we got accelerated growth. They opened the biodome up. Within 3 days, all the trees fell over because they didn't have a good foundation. They were not used to wind and stress and disturbances. And so as soon as they got any wind, they fell over. So you want an organization that's resilient, that grows, that has stress and disturbances, and is able to handle those. And to do that, you need a solid financial foundation and a solid corporate structure. So we focus on maximizing profits, which is getting your finances solid, and creating freedom. And that's what you want in your business. You want to grow your company, but if you grow losses, that's not what you want to do. You want to grow profits. And so we want to make sure it's profitable first. And also, as you grow a business, if you double the size of the business, you triple the communication challenges in a business. So it goes as the cube of the number of people in the business. You've got to have a good, resilient structure that can handle changes and growth, because growth is a significant disturbance to that business. And so you need good, solid structure and good, solid profits. Then we accelerate the growth. And so to get really good, solid structure to the company, we have a culture cultivator. In the second half of this, Adam and Miriam are going to jump in and talk a lot about creating freedom and how you structure your company to do that. We also have many tools, including secret sauce, which are ways to increase your profits. And the secret sauce are things that allow you to pay your employees more and increase your profits at the same time. Sounds like an oxymoron, but we've got secret sauce to do that. And what you get is freedom expanded, guaranteed, with the expert in revenue growth and brand impact. How do you quickly maximize profit and prepare for accelerated growth? The question is, you want to increase profits quickly and free up the owner's time. And how the quick profit, you want quick profits, but you don't want overwhelm. You want systems and processes to grow quickly so that the company is resilient and is able to grow fast. And so we implement systems and processes in the company to get it financially solid and profitable and structured for growth. And then we bring in our culture team, which is Adam and Miriam, in order to create a culture that's ready and resilient for growth. Proprietary pricing is one of the pieces of secret sauce. It's a way to increase your profits quickly and easily. So that's one of the tools that we use. The other three I've got a little smaller below, because all the other three is when you do those, you pay the employees more and you increase your profits. Proprietary pricing is finding the right price for any product or service. Most businesses, they look at the pricing of their product and it's based on what the competition charges or on what it costs to make the product. But the customers don't care about what the competition charge or what it costs to make it. Competitive pricing is influenced by client perception, but not directly. You want to know what your product is worth, and every product is unique. So our system finds the right price for that product and service. And every single client that I've worked with and all multiple products, hundreds of products that we've applied this to have all been underpriced, every single one. Even with owners who said, I'm in a highly competitive market, I cannot increase my prices, no one would buy it, and we apply it and find they're underpriced because their product's different than the market. The other three are ways of creating bonuses for your employees: profit sharing, profits increase tracking, and wage profit growth. And I'm going to go into those now. For proprietary pricing, how do you find the perceived value? Raise the prices a little bit that does not burden those who cannot pay while easily increasing profits. And the key to it is data analysis. You want to analyze what's the effect. How does it received by the clients, by the customers? How do you communicate with them? How's it received by them? And then what's the effect on it? So that is the system we have, is on data analysis. And for profit sharing, the key is communications. And it's true for all of the parts of secret sauce, is that probably 20% of companies in the US are using profit sharing. The model's pretty simple. You take 10% of your profits and distribute it quarterly to employees, prorated by salary. That's the simple model. I don't do anything different than that. But what's key is, if you want to motivate your employees to increase profits, which is the whole point from the owners doing profit sharing, then you have to communicate it to them in a way that they feel motivated. I was working in a company where we got profit sharing every quarter for 2 years, 30% of our wage. So every quarter I got an extra month's bonus wages from profit sharing. And one quarter I got my check. It was not enough for a McDonald's hamburger. And everyone was upset, the whole company. And we started to say, what happened? There was an accounting error and they corrected something and it wiped out our profit sharing. Number one, they didn't communicate it ahead of time. It just showed up. And it was not an operating expense, what we could influence. It was an accounting correction. So poor communication, it totally wiped out motivation for that profit sharing. I was in the company, everyone I worked with, we didn't care about profits after that. So it's important to communicate with the staff ahead of time before you start the profit sharing and get their input. And then every quarter before money is distributed, you've got to interact with the staff and understand, communicate with them what's going on and why, and see if they have any concerns. I had a client I implemented this with. I told her, do not implement it until you talk to the staff. She got so excited. She just talked to the staff. I said, give it a week. The next day she distributed the money. The day after that, someone came up and said, I don't like the way it's done. It doesn't seem fair. She did it too fast. You got to give it time and then it will work. Profit increase tracking system is about educating and involving the staff on the company project, profits, and ways to increase them. It produces staff bonuses tied to company profits, and it implements a system that then you can watch the profits increase. I worked in high-tech companies in the Seattle area for years. I have 14 patents. If the price increase tracking system had been implemented in those companies, I would be a multimillionaire, because my ideas turned into millions of dollars of profits for the companies, but I got nothing. With this system, any ideas any employees have turn into profits for the company, and the employee gets a % of the profits they deliver. Everyone wins. Wage and profit system. The key with that is that employees get incentivized pay. So if they work more efficiently, they get paid more. And there's a specific mathematical system to do that. But what's key is you have to have a quality system in place, because if you drive them to go faster and more efficient, quality can go down. And that's not what you want. So the first thing we do is implement a good quality system, make sure that's working, and make sure we can maintain it. And then we implement the system. And I've worked with companies that have implemented this in over 2 years, gone to paying their employees from under industry's average to 80% over industry average salary in 2 years. And profits of the company increased while they were doing that. So almost doubling the employee's salary and increasing profits at the same time. Powerful system. So now we've got a structure in place and profits in place, and let's accelerate sales. Let's get things to take off. Number one is branding. That's the key. And I've got branding experts that I work with to make sure your branding is solid. And there's some key small things that are important about branding I'm going to go into in a minute. And what we use is digital content marketing. That's the way things really move in marketing these days. Lots of different social media is just one example. And then we track cost of acquisition to clients, which is not usually done in marketing. You get marketing companies charge you lots of money. They get you lots of clicks, but what does it turn? How does it turn into profits? How does it turn into profitable sales? That's what we track. And that's my marketing people. And I suggest you talking to someone with marketing, find out how is it turning into sales and profits, profitable sales. So Value Logic focuses on quality, not on cost and not on convenience. And those are the three choices. The question when you're branding, a very simple, important question right up front is, what is your focus? You don't go to McDonald's or Walmart to buy a high quality product. Everyone knows all brands. It's very easy right away. We can all ask, and as a company, high quality, low cost, or convenient. If I want something quick and easy, I'm going to Amazon. It's about convenience. It's not always the lowest cost. You need to decide for your company, what is your brand? Is it high quality, low cost, or convenience? Walmart introduced a product about 10 years ago that was a high quality product. They spent $10 million to develop it and market it, and it was a total wasted $10 million. You do not sell a high quality product in Walmart. It's a total flop. They didn't get this simple idea around branding. Very simple, but important concept for any company. You've got to stick with the brand you've got, one of those three. For digital content marketing, it's not just a plan, but the right experts to implement the plan. And that's the key. And that's one of the things that I recommend is if you're working with a business coach, most of them will come up with a plan, a strategy, but we bring in experts like Miriam and Adam and many other. I've got over 50 people at Value Logic that are experts in business, and we bring them in to help our clients to get things done, implement systems, do digital content marketing, bookkeeping, CPAs, HR specialists, whatever is needed to get things done, admins in a company. That's what you need, is someone to get things done and implement it in a profitable way. So we got this whole structure, we're ready to grow, and we need to have good, solid culture. So I'm going to hand it to Adam and Miriam to talk about strengthening culture.
I'll come off mute first. Thank you, Bond. That's really great stuff. We appreciate you bringing us on and adding a little bit to the great presentation that you've already made. So I'm Adam, and this is Miriam, and we work with culture, and we work with Bond on preparing organizations for what they're asking for, which is very often growth. And growth is a disruption. Anyone who's grown a business will know that when we get what we want when it comes to profit increases and growing our staff and growing our capacity, that there are big changes that happen. And Bond, I loved your analogy of the biodome and the tree, when they opened up the biodome and the trees fell over, because that's often what it can feel like for a leader or an organization when they start to grow. And I think about it like, for any of us that have grown a vegetable garden, and we have those starts, and they happen in a very controlled environment with a UV light and sometimes indoors, and then we take them outside and they get planted too early and they just all wither and die. And so it can be like that with people and culture too, or with your whole organization. So what we want to do is start creating what we do. Let me see if I can change the slides here. Is start to prepare a team or an organization for change before those major disruptions happen. I also like to think about it like, to use that analogy that you were using, Bond. exposing those trees or those plants or those starts to a little bit of stress, a little bit of disruption before that major change happens, so that they can become, as you said, more resilient and able to deal with the changes that are coming. The challenge is that culture, human culture, is usually invisible to us until it's not. And when it's not, it's usually during those big disruptive times. So, a very easy example that we've all shared an experience of is what happened in the last 3 to 4 years, right? We had ways of doing things in our businesses. We had ways of communicating, of selling, of buying, bringing on staff that changed very rapidly. And what it exposed was the way that we were doing things. It became very clear. What wasn't so clear was how we were going to adapt to the changes that came down upon all of us. And I would even add on to there that the most interesting thing in reflecting on the last few years has been that while we are used to factoring in things like market effects, pricing and revenue and competition and just the general economic situation, I think very few of us factored in the biological ecosystem, and that was the major disruptor. Was a biological factor that came in and changed everything about how most of us do business. So I'll pass it over to Miriam. You can talk about what we mean when we talk about culture.
Yeah, so as business owners and founders and CEOs, there is a lot that we can control, but there is also a lot that we can't control. And the thing about tactical changes like pricing and branding, they're often decisions we as owners and founders make. But culture is created by everyone in the organization. And so where do we see culture implemented? Well, we see it in the practices. So in the sort of decision making that happens, that can be formal because of the command structures, but also on a day-to-day basis, the way that the people in our organization are making decisions. And we see it in the way that our work cadences are, how people turn up to work, how we meet, what sort of meetings we have, the informal and formal policies. Of course, we see culture in the way that we relate to each other. Often organizations have values, and sometimes those values are practiced in the relationship and sometimes they're not. So in the interpersonal and intrapersonal relationships, also in our relationships with our clients and the market, and the structural relationships in the organizations. And finally, one of the most squishy parts of culture is what is below the water. So if you have an iceberg, the first two are things that you can often see and experience, and the assumptions are below the water. We can't see and experience them. We're blind to them until there's a disruption. So they're the things that we kind of assume like that's the way things are. And there's shared assumptions in an organization. Well, that's the way the market is, or that's the way our organization is. And when we're heading into a high growth period, often those assumptions about the way things are dramatically change because the organization changes and the way we relate to our clients and the market changes.
So even our identity, if you've ever been a part of a rapidly growing organization, you know that your role and even your identity will change as the organization grows. What we think we're good at, what we think we're valued for, et cetera, will change. So we get good at doing things in the way that they are. Those assumptions that Miriam's talking about, they help us be more focused, to filter out information, to be more effective in what we're doing in the current reality. But we know what we're talking about here is that current reality is going to change into that future reality. So we want to get a good leader, one who's ready for change and leading an organization that's changing, is going to start to implement practices for creating an adaptive culture that can transform as the outcomes and the goals transform. And what this helps us do is it helps us amplify the cultural signal that we're receiving. In other words, what we want to do is get more information. So break out of that pattern that we're used to and start to see, okay, what's changing? What are the small signals that I can receive from my environment? What are the small signals that I can help my staff receive from the environment? How can I collect more information that help us to adapt quickly before these big changes come down the road? So we're gonna lead you through a couple of experiments here, because we could talk about this all day, but it's more fun if we practice something together. And I just want you to notice how you're paying attention right now, just as a baseline. You might be paying attention to the screen here and to the sounds of our voices as we've been giving a presentation. And you're probably thinking that we're delivering some information to you through the screen, and you're assessing that information according to what you know and what your expectations have been. So just, and note anything else, any other way that you're expecting to receive information now. And we're going to shift that. So now take your eyes off the screen and just let your awareness, your visual awareness, travel to anywhere in your space, your office, or you might be sitting outside. Just notice where your attention goes first. So about 80% of people that do this will have a reaction of going right to something that's attractive to them. Like maybe you have a painting on your wall of someone or something that you love. Your attention goes there. Or if you're like me, your attention has gone to the pile of clutter in the corner that I need to start, that I know now I need to clean up. So we'll tend to go in this pattern of like, okay, I'm attracted to that, so my attention goes there. I need to fix that, my attention goes there. This is usually how humans are operating.
Yeah,
what we're filtering out. Yeah.
I'm just saying, keep putting them in the chat. I can see people are starting to put what they're attracted to. Yeah, keep putting them in the chat. Keep going.
I love an automatically interactive group. So thank you for that. Now we want to just see if we can find something else in the environment. And I'm going to ask you to look for something that seems neutral to you. And how do you know it's neutral? It's because you didn't notice it yet. It's not something that you're attracted to. It's not something that you need to fix. It's something that your brain has probably filtered out in the hundreds or thousands of times you've walked into this office. And I'm going to point you to some suggestions, but see what you find. Like the corner of the ceiling, where the ceiling corners meet. Like, have you ever looked up there? Or the edges of your light fixtures. Or maybe even it's your laptop or your phone, and there's a aspect of this that you just gloss over every time you're on your computer. And so we're trying to cultivate a curiosity here about the things that we don't notice usually. And we don't notice them generally because they're not something we need to fix. And think about this as a business leader. Where do we tend to focus our energy, our attention on the things that need our attention, which are usually the things that need to be fixed? Or the big shiny goal, big audacious goal that we're moving towards, right? Okay, so we'll do one more exercise here, which is to use our auditory capacity to see what we can notice that we haven't noticed yet. So just like you've been focusing on the screen here or the sound of my voice, I want you to go beyond the sound of my voice and start to hear some sounds in your space or outside the room that you didn't notice in the last 40 minutes or 30 minutes that we've been here. So this could be that far off chirping of the bird, maybe the street sounds if you're in a city.
Fan, tractor, my husband clicking his computer mouse, dog snoring, birds, dog barking at something outside, my coworker typing, all the sounds around us.
Yeah, and each of those sounds is giving us some information, right? This is a very simple experiment, but they're giving us some information about our environment. And it's information that we don't get when we stay in our lane and try to focus on one thing or stick within our expectations for how we're going to be receiving information. So these usually invisible cultural signals are actually really usually available to us if we shift our attention and start to cultivate practices for ourselves and for our group, our teams, that allow us to expand our awareness out. So this is all well and good when it comes to, you know, these sort of meditative experiments that we do on our own, but what does this mean when it comes to your team or your organization? So the next piece that we want to share with you is going to start to move into that direction. And to do that, I'll pass it over to Miriam, and we're going to get some people to step up to the panel here.
So what we just did was expand our individual awareness. So as leaders, taking a pause in our business and actually allowing ourselves to notice more, to let more in. And similarly, that happens with our teams. So often when we're with our teams, especially in growth, when we're getting busier, we're directing the attention of our teams to a certain point. This is where we need to go. This is how we're going to perform. And again, you may be missing the information that those team members can bring in from their environments. And so the next experiment is actually what we can get from sharing stories. So in this environment, we have a huge resource. We have everyone listening to this webinar as a resource. All of you whom have stories that you could share that will help us understand what disruption in businesses do. So we're looking for 3 volunteers. If you can put your hand, raise your hand. We're going to invite you on the screen here to share a story of a time when your business or organization experienced a disruption. What happened? How did it change your assumptions? And how did it change your ideas about how you needed to move forward? So 3 people to share 3 very brief stories and come up, and Steve's going to bring them on the panel up here. And we've got we're looking about like a couple of minutes each to share your stories. Do we have anyone courageous to come and share the stories of your business, a business disruption?
Yeah, we should have people coming on.
Great.
In a second. Okay.
Good, Alexi.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Welcome. And do we have a couple more, Steve?
Yeah, Lauren is coming on. Laura Owen. Yeah.
Great.
Lauren.
And I've got Judy coming on as well.
Fantastic. So we're looking at a story. I'm going to give you a bit of a time check at about 1.5 minutes. That doesn't mean to stop, just to kind of look at wrapping up the story. And we're looking at a time when your business or your organization experienced a disruption and what happened to your expectations, and what happened, how did it change your assumptions about how the organization needed to move forward? So Alexi,
and just one quick thing for the listeners, for those
Right.
that are listening. Just like we did that little experiment with our awareness, see if you can listen in the same way. So if you notice yourself going into, oh, I've got the perfect solution for that person, or I could have fixed that, or, oh, that was a really good move. Let yourself see if you can just go a little bit past that, and what else you can become aware of, what else you can absorb, what additional information you can receive by just doing some open listening.
And we're going to ask you to share some witness comments at the end in chat, not during their stories, but afterwards. We're going to give you a certain prompt. So hold your comments until after the stories. So Alexi, let's start with you. Thank you for coming and sharing a story.
Thank you very much for hosting this webinar, everyone. My name is Alexei Petrov. I'm the owner of Gamma Math Tutoring, LLC. We are based in Dallas, Texas, a math tutoring company that tutors students from grade 1 all the way up to university level. And something that a disruption that I noticed happening recently is that in the summer, there's a drop-off in clients. There's a drop-off because, well, not as many families are willing to keep their children in education, and they're wanting to go on vacation and all sorts of things. And I realized I needed to change my marketing strategies. I needed to change and adapt. And I hired a coach to work with me. And now we're trying to develop a specific strategy to focus on summer marketing, because summer marketing is different from different seasons of the year, since there's a different behavior in the clients over the summer as compared to the behavior of the clients during the school year. And so there is, we try to make specific targeting. And for example, I'll give an example about something called summer learning lasts. And that is whenever students, they lose knowledge over the summer. And there's a study that got published by the American Education Research Journal that 17 to 34% of the average of the knowledge is lost by the average student that was learned from the previous year. So we kind of targeting the students in the summer to prevent that from happening. And that's what my coach and I are working on, kind of a different adaptive approach to summer marketing.
Thank you so much, Alexi. And I'm going to wave my hand, Judy, for yours at about a minute, just over a minute.
Okay.
Thank you, Judy. Thank you, Alexi, for sharing your story. Judy, would you like to share your story?
Sure. I'm Judy Brown. I own Tacoma Trophy. A couple years ago, we hired our first employee several years ago. Her name was Brandy. She worked with us very closely, worked with us for several years, was the closest to being a manager here than anybody else would be, because she knew how to do everything. 2 years ago, quite unexpectedly, Brandy passed away. Vibrant young woman, and she passed away. She was somebody who we relied on. She was always the one that, if something needed to be done, if somebody needed to be here, she was the one that was here. That sent kind of shockwaves through now we have 12 employees, but everybody looked up to Brandy because Brandy had been here the longest. And so honestly, and I know I'm looking at business coaches here who are going to tell me that I'm completely crazy about this, but honestly, that episode in our business has told me not to put so much stake in one person. I in fact will not have a manager. I want a team here with lots of cross training so that we don't have to handle or go through that again.
Thank you so much, Judy. And we'll pass now to Laura. Thank you so much. And I'll raise my hand again at around a minute.
I'm relatively new. My name's Laura Owen. I live in Cheyenne, Wyoming. I'm in media sales, and I'm relatively new to that particular area of sales. And I was in the middle of a presentation online with a client out of Denver when all of a sudden the power went out, and thus my presentation went out. I'm sure that's happened to other people before, but when you're in media sales and broadcast is what you're selling, it's quite an experience to all of a sudden be no longer on the air, which is exactly what had happened to our entire station. The power went out through the main breaker within the utility company, and we were out for a number of minutes. But more than anything, I think what it showed me was that those things happen even when there's redundancy in place. They just happen. And getting back on the line with the client and moving forward was still something that I could still do, and we could still move through. And I was glad it happened early in my experience here, because it just does happen to everyone on occasion, and you just need to go and roll with the punches.
Sorry, I didn't mean that timer to go off. Thank you so much. Those stories are so rich. And now as the listeners, as you listen to those stories, and as the different stories kind of became interwoven, what were the themes that you heard? What were the themes? What did you hear in these three stories? What were people talking about? So any themes that you heard, please put them in the chat. And also for Alexi and Judy and And Laura, any themes that you heard as you listened to the stories here? Unexpected events. Yeah. Theme of pivoting. Keep pushing, things happening. Stress. Making adjustments to overcome those obstacles in the future. Unexpected changes. Some decisions did not turn out as we planned, and the business owner had to pivot. Pain points. Cross-training importance. Real world, to be flexible. Force change in thinking. Outsourcing for solutions. Stuff happens. Think on your feet. Thank you so much. And the comments keep coming. And I just want to witness the learning that I received in those 3 stories from the collective group coming in, from there not just being the voice of the expert, for us be able to, alongside expertise, be able to share our experiences.
Yeah, thank you for sharing and stepping up. As we get to the end of our time here, just wanted to give you some quick the elements that we consider are most important for creating small disruptions that don't cause huge problems during a large disruption. I think some of you actually spoke to this just now, which is building a psychological safety within your teams. I think this is pretty well known and understood. But the point here is that what we actually want people to do is start to turn towards the tension that is coming, to be prepared for the major disruptions, start to share more information, learn from each other, share wisdom and skills and tactics, so that you don't end up with people kind of getting too rigid or depending on one or a few people to navigate the transition, that we can go towards the whole team. And as leaders, as business owners, what we're doing all the time is using this tension and using the psychological safety that allows people to share and bring new ideas in, to test our assumptions about the way things are and the way that we will move through transition. So there's a whole plethora of tools and skills and practices that that Bond and that BLS can introduce for your organization. But these are just kind of the general trajectory that we're looking for to make an adaptive organization resilient and strong. Bond, I'm gonna pass it over to you. I think with timing,
It's going to be
I'll
quick.
let you navigate this.
Yeah,
Okay,
it's going to be really quick. So one of the areas for disruption in businesses is growth, and that's what we're talking about. And in growth, there are 5 stages of growth for a company. Every time you transition from one of these stages to the next, it's disruptive. It's always going to be disruptive. And if you're in a given stage, if you can build your culture before that transition, it's going to work much more smoothly and happen more quickly and have the least disruption in your company. So the stages are quickly solopreneur, someone working on their own, no employees. Then you start bringing in a few contractors and employees, but you're still doing almost all the work. Then you get to where the employees and contractors are doing most of the work in the company. And then the owners doing critical work in stage 3. But stage 4, he's still involved. The owner's involved. He or she is involved, but there's no critical work being done. In stage 5, owner does nothing. Company completely runs itself. We're working on a new tool that we're bringing to the United States that makes this transition in about 1.5 years with an increase of 5 times in profitability. I'm introducing it to one of my clients right now. But we've got all sorts of tools to go at the rate that the owner wants to go through these transitions, but we need culture support, and Adam and Miriam are key in providing that cultural transition support in the 500% system or in any of these stages that we go through. Here's my cell phone number. You can reach out, text me, set up a complimentary assessment for a time that we could talk and just talk about any ways that I could help you. Even if it's not something I can do, my company could do for you, I'm happy to talk to you about anything you need in your business, any way that I can help. We're here to help. And then Adam's going to say a word, or Miriam, about the blue-green case study.
Yeah, so if you're interested in kind of that case study of how culture interacts with high growth, we can actually give you the blue-green case study is a really good one of a small business growing very quickly and how this culture work interacted with that. So you can see that in concrete details. So we're really happy to share that with you.
And you can reach out at bond@ValueLogic Solutions or text me at this number and we can set up a time to talk. Or if you just want to get the case study, just text me and I'll with your email and I'll send the case study. Questions and answers. Anyone have any answers?
I'm
always
just
got
putting Bond's
questions.
email in here, so let's see. Hold
Great.
on. Logics, there we go. All right, let's see. I think that Miriam did some private question answering, so thank you for that. That saved us a minute or two. Holly's just asking if the PowerPoint is available to share.
Yes, if you again email me, I can send the just email a PowerPoint to you.